Rashash. Let's see how we can try to get to the Rashash. So we're on page Samach Bet. We're at the bottom of number Vav, reading in the Tivuk Avanos. Let's see if we get it. I was going to skip a little bit of this, but let's see if I don't really see where I was going to go. Number Vav says, Call Caden is Boyer B'Sefer HaKavanos. 1 second. Ki mitzvos elu the Purim. Hem la'am he b'lakayim b'nuk. That's the purpose of it. Shehem Yaakov v'Rachel. Now that's relatively speaking, he's saying that statement. V'ha'ares ha'mochin the abach v'ima shenikdasuch b'tefillah shakris b'nuk. So all of that is what's all about b'shas tefillah. May ha'ares mochin the abba v'ima b'nuk the kriyas hanikroyim Yaakov v'Rachel. I don't know if there's some more explanation of that, but that's what they're called here. V'avad is saying the b'mecha b'purim l'kayim ha'arva zuch sh'yishara gam achar tefillah, that this should also remain after the tefillah. V'inyan zechad na'asa al yedech v'mitzvahs hayom sh'anu makayim, and this is done through the mitzvahs of every day that we accomplish. Masha Kasav Rashash Shakain is Boyer Bishar Kavanas Sarak Leda Behechon Dayak Kain. I'm not sure exactly what he's meaning here. What he's mean, the Pashtas Lashon Rav Sham Ainun Mora Kain, it doesn't show us that. Gamoshin is Boyer Bachakdama Hakdama Ulai Dayak Kain Belashon Rav Shakasav like this. Vihinecha Bekol Shana B'mecha Purim, every year when the time of Purim comes about. Today, the Kayim Ha'aras on Niskar, in order to maintain the Ha'ara which is generated at Purim. Anatzrich La'aso Shlosha Mitzvos Ad Kan. That's what he says. So he says, 1 second. He says, Ad Kan. Mashba She'iga Aham Shacha Na'asa B'Tfilo. That's the main place. For Kol Shacha Mitzvos Boos Rak L'Kayim B'Tzarech Iyam. They're there to. He says the hamshachas naasa b'tefillah, and he says everything else we do is to maintain it, sustain it. That's tzadik v'tzarech iyun. So then he says v'tzarech l'habin be'ezeh pratnim shachim b'chadash ki elu mitzvahs gemuros the rabbanan she'em b'Yaakov v'Rachel, those rabbanan which had take place at Malchus zecha b'sha'al yedecha b'chosechem nivroim v'olim b'rurim v'nimshachim mochin chadashim. So what do you mean? He said ket ezeh ku maimer chamuskar ve'ein shah. So he lifts something out. V'hinecha v'hi asher aloma the creation of Megillah poelis Rak L'Kayim Ha'arach Nizkarim the Haklal, because the general idea is like this. Shekol mitzvos da'araisa gormin birurim v'yuhudim chadashim b'zun. That's the mitzvos da'araisa in zun. The mitzvahs da'rabbanim gormin birurim v'yuhudim chadashim b'Yaakov v'Rachel, which he says is relative to zun. I guess you would say that's Yaakov and Rachel is Malchus. So in other words, this is the destination. It probably takes think a little bit more about that. V'im came kriyas and Megillah shehim mitzvahs the rabbanan sricha the pol yuchudim mamish below rak l'kayim ha'ara. So that's a part of it, is to bring what the pol yuchudim, to actually bring it into oneness. Other than this bar b'farshim. The mitzvah achas yichola the pol kama demar, one mitzvah can actually accomplish many things. The al yedecha b'kiyam mitzvahs the Purim, because by doing the mitzvahs that are shaykh to Purim, poilim heim lahasher as ha'arish ha'gavar nimshachol, so they're able to maintain it, because what happens, he could say, if he doesn't say it here, says somewhere else, that in Shabbos we do this every day, but it leaves. V'hem lahamshech ha'yedecha v'mitzvahs v'kosechem v'mochin chadash the Yaakov v'Rachel. Kakol mitzvahs the rabbanan v'alzecha ka'amar Rashash as sarek leider ezecha b'china misaknim mitzad ha'mitzvah. So actually, what aspect actually it is repaired or built? mitzad hamitzvos the Rabbana shebezecha vesta shebezeh v'stam v'lo beer. Okay. How klal she'al yedecha bebracha nivrorim v'olim beberuchim l'malo. So this causes berurim to come upwards. Ba'az nimshach bebracha the lamed mem tzalim. Now this seems a little bit disjointed to me exactly. Okay, that I hear that. So he says, matanos. So he says, what about these matanos to the avyonim? Shehem mitzvahs maisis. Who kadei lahamhed v'lekayim ha'aras kalim. This is in order to sustain the shining of the kalim. V'oras belvad. That's all it's supposed to do. The Chamisha Partzufi Ma Uben the Yaakov Rachel. So each one, I think Ma and Ben each has 5 Partzufim. The Kitzoni is the Ak, which comes from the Kitzoni Savak, which is associated with actually doing things. V'Ratzilas Bria Yitzira Nasiya, the Ratzilas Bria Yitzira Vasiya. Wow, let me look at that again. The Kitzoni is of Ak. And then he goes down the line, and Itziyas, and Bria, Itzira, and Asiya. But those aspects that are part of Itzilus. So that's the next, I guess, veil over it with all these different aspects of Bria, Itzira, and Asiya. Let's skip down to number test and see what we're going over here. Number test says, "O mitzvahs achila b'shtia shehem yud and k, v'hi mitzvahs maisis." And what does it do? Lahamid v'lekayim ha'aras ha'mochim v'neranchi. So charas ha'mochim, the mochim cover over the neranchi and the cold sama. So this is a veil within a veil, or a different kind of clothing. The neranchi represents the oros. So the mochim cover the oros. The chamisha partzufi ma'u ben the Yaakov and Rachel, and we're going into Yaakov and Rachel, and each one of them has 5 partzufim. These are the Partzuf the Chitzoni is the Ak v'Chatzilus, Brin Yisir Asiya the Tzilus. So let's say of the Tzilus, and then all these different aspects of Olam of Atzilus and Bria and Yitzira, all the way down to through the Asiya. So all of them really sort of like duplications, but they're going further away from the core of the light of the Ein Sof. Let's go to number Yud on the next page. Number Yud says, "V'tzarkli hizacher v'lehizdaros la'asos hasauda achar tefillah shachris." This is a point that he wants to make. Echelekama tamem yeduim, all the different kinds of reasons. So he says, "Machadash Rashash the yesh lehizdaros la'asos hasuda miyad achar tefillah shachris." They should do it right away. V'leloka minhag ha'olam, not the way that the world actually works this. Amuva v'ramah la'asoso achar mincha. You should do it after mincha, according to the Ramah. V'gam ha'ramah causes sham the charotza la'asoso tameh b'shachris aroshos biyado. So we have a difference of looking at it that way. Machmas kamatamim shalo gila v'od tam mavur ata. Let's go on to number Yud Aleph. V'gan ba'od shaha-aros hanizkarim b'tukvam, and when they're in their full strength, achar ha-tefillah, which is after the tefillah, lo yistalku achar kach mechakelim b'panimim the chakras. But what we usually have is that everything is stalik. So the beginning is really only with Kalim Panimim. So I have this Masora Hila Asos Asuda Achar to feel the chakras as it's a kale, so that's why he says that. Let's just read a little bit in the Tiva Kavanos. He says, a Tiva Rashash, he calls it, Arvis, he, the Saking, the Kalim, the Kitzonim, which we know, but the Filu Shakris is a Kalim Penimir, but the Filu Semitla, the Sakam, the Kalim, and the what's the difference? What does it actually mean, the difference? The Pichoch, Im Ya'achel, so therefore, if a person should eat, one second, oh boy. if a person should eat hasauda rak acher tefilas mincha only after minchas, az yikayim rak ha'aros hanimshacha b'mincha l'kelim emseim. That's the problem. So he says like this: ve'edach ha'aros, the chakras yistalku machmas shelo naasa ma'isa the kaimim, because there's nothing there. They're gone because there's no ma'isa that can allow them to continue on, and so therefore we need to do something. That's what he said. But the yordim the achol miyad achar tefillah chakras. This is the minhag according to the Rashash. So he said v'kol edach hagavanu shal Purim. So now all the gavanas of Purim heim bezum makolonim the klaus hashana. So I want to just look at this for a second, because we have these different kinds of partzufim. Here there's a partzuf here of the zun kololim. Now, kololim here means the overall zun, whatever's going on. There must be other zuns in different parts. A kololim, the klaus hashana. So bekola tikunim na'asach yedenu hein polim b'zav v'nuk. They all work on the za and the nuk zun. Amnam ha'avoda is chalakas the shnei partzufim, but it gets divided into the two. V'avoda shechol b'yom shall call yom v'yom b'mecha shavur shev'shvat po'elis and b'sakenis partzuf echad. Hanikra Partzuf Yomim. That is called Partzuf Yomim. Now, what he meant by Partzuf Echad, I like to hear what he wants, but what he wants to say. That's called the Partzuf Yomim. We do it every day. Po'elis b'Partzuf Acher Hanikra Partzuf Azmanim, which is called the Partzuf of the Zamanim. So here it says like this. Shagavanas Purim hein bezav and nuk the parts of azmanim the klaus hashana. Now, I guess I'm trying to think of what is the difference between the two. So I know that we all know that during the moed or during a holiday, there's a special set of mochin that's coming to us. He says that comes from parts of zmanim. So there's, in other words, a different flow of light, a way the flow flies differently or more selective, more particularly into us. So here what's happening on those holidays is that Biruim HaChadoshim Shal Shana Hahi L'Maku Maku Sheba'ak into the proper place within Ak. Let's get a little explanation about this. What he means by the proper place in Ak. Called Moed b'Moed Hashana, all the holidays. K'sheba Osach Hazman Misordedim his barer Biruim Chadashim Sha'ad Lo his barado ad ato. So now he's really defining more about what's going on. He says of Shaykha the Bechinas Moed Ahu Ba'ak, which is really Shaykha to the aspect of Moed that's coming all the way from ultimate Panemius, which is Ak. Yom Tov Moed Yesh Bechina Miyuchadim Ba'ak. So therefore, it's so high up. There are Moad Yesh Bechinas Moadim Ba'ak Amisyachsim Elu Amisyacheses Elov Uba Poilim, which is, in other words, this looking at Ak is really where the actual beginning of this flow starts. Ubo Poilim Abirurim V'chatikunim Shal Osach Hasman, and that in that space, in that place within Yak is where the Birurim V'chatikunim of that Zman, because each one is going to be different. The klaus hashana results that have to take place within the year. So within the year, there are more than one partzuf. There's a partzuf of the Yomi, which he says happens every day, and there's a partzuf of the seasons. Let's take Pesach. Birulim ha'shaychan l'chesed the So these is going to deal with the birurim that are shaychan to the chesed and Ak, the silus, and then in Ovi Bri Yitzir and Asiya, and of course he had said previously that there's a abiyah of also the silus. Uba Purim Ak and Purim come to a different one. This is going to be Akta Tzilos, Ivad Tzilos, the Bria, Yitzira, Osiyah, the Netzach. So it's going to move on down the right line. So let's go on to number Yodalad. He says, Misarva Indian Hahu Old the Palm. So this is aroused another time, She'ena Bapol, but it's not actually comes into actually action. The Vishaena Elach is ordered as a Kedusha, but it's an arousal to Kedusha. Shemis Oren Neged Akali, which is aroused, that's another aspect, he says, against the Kali, Hakid Shenegda. So what he says, Zeb, what do they say? Zekaneged Zebaro some. Lahachnir Shadot Tishlo, so to humble them so that they shouldn't get in control again. Shekevin Shekavarn is Barach Kedusha Bepam Rishona, so since we see that, this Gaver Atach Bekal Pam Lahachnia Kali, so it comes up every time to humble the Kali. Notice he doesn't say destroy the Kali, he says to beat it down so that it won't interfere. All of this is from the Rachmanas of the Ma'azel of the Chasadim of Peshutim. What does he mean? A Masora Osaha Inyan Shahoyim Ba'avar. And it has a root up above. It doesn't actually have an action associated with it, or something that will happen. But what's of sha'anu? So since I'm doing the mitzvahs down below, so what we're doing is that. That's a part of what's going on here. That is the haku koach hakdusha kamoshahoy b'pam rishon. So also now we also have the ability to be able to knock down the kali. He's ordered this atachtonis because there is this arousal. But Maisa mitzvahs of doing the mitzvahs are shaykh and the oza zaman that pertain to that particular zaman, or the parts of that zaman. They'll call barach merashem yisborach barach mabshutim. Now we'll finish here, and it says like this: This is all known to people who know times. I guess it's mada, so that other people understand, I guess, the depth of it. Also, not like any don't listen to anybody else connected the if you really want to get into the depth of what they were saying. So this is the Afuki Ma'osam Amorim. So this is to exclude those who are saying the Masha'ana Oisim Yamim Tovim. So what we're doing here, we're making the Yamim Tovim. Who rock lezecher hanisim is to remember the nisim umorals, the things that happened yom mahem at that time, and that particular moed. Ella kamavucha b'dibur harizal hakodesh. The naasach kol mechadosh. It's not to keep going something that was. It's to something that's going to be new. Because shana commotion is boyer, as we're going to get into it. So we're going to, I'll look at those notes, but I'm really anxious to look at the Rashash and see what we can make out of it on page Ayin Aleph. And that's where we'll begin the next time, God willing. Kol tov. And have a good Shabbos.